Hello, welcome back to the Meachum Village YouTube channel. Let's talk about why I disagree with Dave Ramsey. Um, and Dave Ramsey needs no introduction. He's the financial guru that's all about using the snowball debt method, where you're paying off your smallest debt to your biggest debt until you pay off your mortgage. And he uses biblical principles to help families and couples get financial freedom. I love Dave Ramsey. I have followed him for years. I have used a lot of his principles. He and Myron Golden are probably why I've been able to stay out of credit card debt, been able to pay off a mortgage, been able to build a business that got acquired and pretty much retire at 42. I love Dave Ramsey. I love the biblical principles that he follows. Please don't get me wrong. But there is an area where I think he's missing an opportunity to apply other biblical principles and really help families who are financially struggling. And it's typically when he gets calls like this.
Hi, Janice. How are you?
Hi, Dave. I'm doing okay. I'm really very concerned about my finances. I'm 70 years old. I have no retirement. My husband and I, neither one have a retirement. We are not in agreement about what we should do with the cash that we do have. We have $25,000 cash, no CDs, nothing. That's it. The question is, we owe $27,000 on our home, and the value of the home is about $250,000. We have $11,000 debt on a car. My husband wants to take the money that we have and pay off the car, and then he says apply the $350 a month car payment towards paying off the house. My problem is I'm so stressed. I at least want to have a house to live in. And the way I see things, I don't think I can live anywhere cheaper than where I live right now. I don't think I could even live in an apartment for what we would be paying a month on our home. So I need some help here.
Now, in that call, a baby boomer has called in, right? Baby boomers are they were born between 1945 and 1965. I'm in my 40s, so baby boomers are our parents, sometimes grandparents if you're younger. And this is a generation that pretty much fell into every possible financial trap set for them. Many of them have not saved for retirement. Many of them still have a lot of debt. I have done a whole separate video on the financial predicament of this generation. And Dave Ramsey will prescribe for them his 7 baby steps. No matter what their age or situation, he's going to say, look, save your $1,000. Be on a rice and beans budget. Go beast mode, paying off the rest of your debt until you pay off your mortgage. That's what he's going to tell them, even if they're like 78. And I don't think it's realistic. I don't think it's realistic to tell somebody in their late 60s and 70s that they should live on a rice and beans budget, go into overdrive, paying off debt, and, eventually pay off their mortgage. Number one, it's not realistic because their expenses are increasing, but their income is not increasing. So even if they attack the debt, many baby boomers are still dealing with loads of medical expenses, which are largely uncontrollable, right? Many of them have health issues that are very costly. So that expense is going up even as their income is flatlining or declining. The other issue is that they may not have enough time, right? I think that the woman who called in was like 71. Life expectancy, I don't know what you're thinking, but they don't have 20 years to go beast mode paying off debt. They're on the tail end of their lives. They simply may not even have enough time to tackle it. And then the third reason is that there's another mound of expenses that I've noticed in my community a lot of the older adults are having, is that on top of their debt, they're living in these homes that need a new roof. They need new plumbing. They need major concrete work. So again, more expenses, but not more income. And then the fourth reason I think it's unrealistic is because it keeps us all living on an island. Many of these older adults have children who have started families, and they're struggling too. They're struggling with time management. They're struggling with burnout. They're struggling with finances, trying to save for a home, pay off other debt. So you've got these various branches of the family all struggling financially. And scripture provides a much better remedy for this than for us to keep, to swim faster. Here's what it says. Behold, how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It's like the precious oil upon the head, running down on the beard of Aaron, running down the edge of his garments. It's like the dew of Hermon descending upon the mountains of Zion. From there, the Lord commanded the blessing, life forevermore. That is Psalm 33. And it's telling us about the beauty of living in unity. It is talking about how pleasing it is to the Lord when fellow believers lock arms in unity with each other. And what better way to do that than with your aging parents and the young families, and there are their adult children who have started families and everybody's struggling. What better situation to come together in unity so that everybody can get some relief? Let me tell you about an experiment that my husband and I tried when we were ready to buy our settle down home. We chose not to buy our settle down home. Instead, we thought about how we both have single mothers, right? We were both raised by single mothers in the 80s who do not have enough saved for retirement, who are not necessarily trying to climb somebody's ladder and 2x their income. And they're also experiencing increases in expenses because of medical bills and because of the debt they haven't paid off and things like that, right? A lot of, again, very common among this generation. And so we said, instead of buying our settle down home, let's buy a multi-unit building. We will live in one unit. My mom will live in another unit. His mom will live in another unit. And the benefit of that is they get to live in a situation where their expenses are controlled. At least their living expenses are controlled, right? We're not going to just go up on the rent because we feel like it. We're not going to start tacking on fees and all of the craziness that happens. They don't have to worry about, trying to buy a home. My mother said something that was all in on this. She was like, you know what, if I'm going to be paying somebody to live somewhere, I'd rather be paying you because at least I know it's going to go to my grandchildren. She was absolutely right. And so we chose to buy a multi-unit to get them in a situation where their expenses would be more controlled. Also, there was a time period where, my mother wasn't working, right? But you live in my building. So obviously it's okay, right? We can float you for a few months until you start a job. And then like 3 months later, she did, and it was fine. That would not have been the case if she were still trying to live on her own. The same thing with my husband's mom. She was ready to retire. She was ready to retire. She can do that if you live in a building that your son owns, right? And you're able to contribute what you can to the expenses. But here's why it was a win-win-win-win-win. So they got the controlled expenses and we got the help. We got the babysitters in the building. At the time, we had small children. I think our daughter was 4, our son was 6. So having the grandmothers in the building was a huge relief to us as well. We too were struggling with burnout and feeling overwhelmed and all of it, trying to be working parents to 2 children, one of whom has special needs. Having the grandmothers in the building to take some of those tasks off our plate was a true blessing. My mother-in-law does my daughter's hair every week. My mother cleans my house. She would come upstairs and just clean my whole house like every 2 days or so. Huge help to me. His mother would do pick up and drop off for school and babysit them after school if I needed to work later, if my husband needed to work later. My mother would take them on field trips every weekend. It was a huge help to have them there because it took things off of our plate with people that we could trust. And then it was a win for my children because they have built very close relationships with their grandmothers. That is hard to do when the grandparents live in one state and you live in another state, or somebody's working all the time. It's very hard to do that when you live in isolation. But because we decided to pool our resources together and come under one roof, it made it so much better for our kids as well. There were times where I was like, I don't know where my kids are. I know they're at somebody's house downstairs, and it was perfectly okay because it's their grandmother's. So if I were Dave Ramsey, or if somebody asked me, hey, I'm in my 60s and 70s, I've got this major debt situation going on, my first question to them would be, where are your children? Where are your children? Do you have adult children? Where do they live? Can you mend the relationship with them if that's needed? Because I know there's been a lot of trauma. But can you reconnect with them and figure out how you all can consolidate your living expenses and help each other? And it could look a lot of different ways. It could look like what my husband and I did, where we bought a building. Our mothers did pay us rent, obviously not market rate, but they paid enough rent that it was a financial help to us. It was a passive income stream for us. It could look a lot of different ways. Maybe if the older adult is, living in a house that's way too big for them, but they have some equity, sell that house and tell your adult children, hey, I would like to come and live with you, and I will give you $50,000 towards your mortgage so that you can get you can get a big chunk of your mortgage paid off, and I will live in the guest room. Or I'm going to give you a chunk of this equity to renovate the basement, and that's going to be my in-law suite. A lot of communities are letting people build accessory dwelling units where you can build, tiny homes or apartments on top of the garage. People are getting really creative with adding living space. If the parents of the older adult is willing to contribute to that, that could be a huge help, because now they have a set living situation without the big mortgage and without all the repairs, and they can focus their retirement income, whatever they do have, on other expenses like all those medical bills. Now, if you're going to try this, if you're going to try some kind of consolidated living situation with your parents, there has to be ground rules. And rule number 1 is you must be equally yoked. Do not try this with ratchet parents. Do not try this with parents who are going to bring unbiblical worldviews, beliefs, and behaviors into your home. You must have parents that share your view of Scripture being final authority, who are still at whatever old age they are, still growing in their faith and ready to submit to what Scripture says the family should be doing. If you've got a parent who is still in them streets, or they still smoke, or they have practices that just go against what you're trying to download into your kids, do not do this. This will not work. This also won't work with selfish parents either. I'll get to that in a little bit. Let's go. Rule number 2, they have to respect the rules and the roles. They have to respect whatever roles you have carved out and whatever rules you set for the household. They must understand that even though they are the parents, they are not the heads of the household. You and your spouse are the leaders of the household. They must respect your husband as the head of the household. They must respect your husband as the head of the household. He's not only the protector, but he's also the visionary for the household. He's also the priest of the household. He's the provider for the household. They have to respect him in that role. If for those of us who were raised by single mothers, many of us have never seen our mothers truly respect a man's headship. But I can honestly say that when we did this living situation with our mothers, I have never seen my mother respect a man's authority as much as she respects my husband. I have never seen my mother respect a man as much as she respects my husband. My husband could come in and say anything, and she'll be like, well, this is what we doing. Example, my husband decided that we were not going to eat microwave food anymore. He did some research. He saw that it was super unhealthy. He saw that it causes a lot of health issues. And he said, you know what? I'm throwing away the microwave. My mother threw away her microwave too. And she started heating her stuff up in the oven. Now, mind you, if one of her boyfriends from when I was little would have told her that, she would have cussed him out. If one of her brothers would have told her, you need to stop eating all that microwave food, she would have rolled her eyes. I have never seen my mother respect a man as much as she respects my husband. And that led to a lot of harmony and just peace in a situation where a lot of people would have a lot of conflict. Rule number 3, there must be a balance with, you must balance generosity with getting help, right? Do not do this with selfish parents, what I was saying earlier. Do not do this with selfish parents. If your parents that you would try this with are very much about themselves, they're not trying to be generous with financially helping or helping with tasks and things with the kids. If they're one of those, well, these your kids, I already raised mine. If they have that mentality, this will not work. Don't try it. There has to be a generosity on all sides in order for this to work. We were generous in the sense that when our parents could not pay something, we were okay with that. They were generous in the sense that when we needed something, especially for our kids, they were all in. They were generous with their time. They were generous with their effort. And we were very clear that we're buying this building not only to help you, but to get help as well. We wanted the extra help with our kids, and they were generous about helping. That's the only way this works, is if you balance generosity with getting help. But if you do this and there's only generosity on your part and your parents are not doing their part, this will not work, and it might fracture the relationship. Rule number 4, do separate kitchens and bathrooms. That was really helpful for us. If you have a guest space, that's fine. If you can build a kitchenette, do that. If you can have a separate bathroom, do that. It just makes it a much more comfortable living situation for everybody. And also, you don't want there to be clashes in living styles, right? My mother is very, very clean. You can eat off the floor in her house. We've got 2 small kids. You can't eat off the floor in our house. That would have driven her nuts. And it was helpful that we had separate living spaces with different kitchens and bathrooms, so everybody can kind of live in a way that they feel comfortable and it doesn't lead to clashes, but we're all under one roof. I love the idea of accessory dwelling units and in-law suites where you can have separate kitchens and bathrooms, because you're still living in unity, but there's enough separation for it to be a comfortable living situation. And then the last rule is know when to part ways. Know when to part ways. You want to try this for 3 months, you want to try it for 6 months, that's fine. But you don't want to create stress and chaos in your household trying to do this, right? Unity is the name of the game. We also have to think about the type of example we're setting for our children. So if we try this with parents or we try this with in-laws and it causes hostility and stress, and now your children are witnessing conflict, your children are witnessing arguments, that's not healthy for them. So you have to know when to part ways. Your children are witnessing bad habits that you don't want them to pick up. You have to know when to part ways when this situation is just not working out, and hopefully do it in a way that's peaceful and doesn't make the relationship a strained relationship. So that's my 2 cents on this. Again, Dave Ramsey does not need to listen to me. No one does. But this is one of the ways where I think we can start to apply biblical principles to family wealth building, family unity, in a way that I think the Lord would be very pleased with, locking arms as family members in ways that help us navigate some of the stress that we're dealing with and navigate some of the financial situations that we're dealing with, while also bringing families together. So I'd love to hear your comments on this. I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions about this, how this worked out for my husband and I. Please like the video. It helps with the algorithm. Share it with anyone that you think is considering something like this. Maybe you're looking at, should we buy a settle down home? What are we going to do? You're making decisions about your aging parents now. Think about this. Let us know if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns. And we'll see you on the next one.